They call them rulers of the world, shadowy figures who command even the admirals to kneel. But what if the five elders aren't just political leaders? What if they are something far older, something divine? Because when we saw them transform atop the holy land of Marijois, bodies twisted into monstrous mythic forms, one truth became impossible to ignore. These aren't men bound by power. These are beings sustained by it. And the key to their godlike existence may lie in the rarest, most forbidden fruits in the world, the mythical zones of the gods. For over 2 decades, the five elders have sat in shadow, five silhouettes above the world whispering behind locked doors, untouched by time, untouched by consequence. They were always presented as bureaucrats, wise men, leaders of the world government. But look closer, and the illusion starts to crack. How could mere humans hold absolute power for centuries in a world that devours even kings? How could they command the Marines, control the media, and erase entire kingdoms without ever showing fear or even age? From the moment they appeared in the story, something felt off. Their authority wasn't political, it was divine. When Emu walks, they bow. But when the world trembles, they are the ones who act. And then, at Egghead, the mask finally broke. In a single moment, Oda shattered 20 years of mystery. The five elders, once thought to be frail, transforming into monstrous beings that defied logic. One became a gigantic ox demon, another a massive boar covered in black smoke, a winged creature, a serpentine horror, and a colossal spider that devoured light itself. These weren't devil fruits we've ever seen before. They weren't mythical or even animal. They were divine, and that changed everything. Because if the five elders truly wield God fruits, fruits that embody forgotten deities, it means the world government's power doesn't just come from politics or armies. It comes from spiritual monopoly, control over the very forces that ancient civilizations once worshipped. This raises terrifying questions. Were these gods worshipped before the Void Century and erased when the world government took power? Are the elders protecting the world or keeping it in chains built by their own divine lineage? When you look at them now, they're not just rulers, they're echoes of an ancient pantheon, gods reborn through the fruits of forbidden knowledge. And each one tells us something about the world they destroyed to build their own. Because in the world of One Piece, gods aren't myths, they're memories, twisted in power. When the five elders revealed their true forms, it wasn't just a power up, it was a revelation, one that turned the ideal of devil fruits on its head. For years, we thought mythical zoans were the pinnacle. Phoenix, Nika, gods and legends reborn through flesh. But the five elders showed something older, something darker. Their forms didn't represent hope or wisdom. They represented fear, punishment, and control. Let's start with Saint Saturn, the first elder to step onto the battlefield. He appeared as a horned, spider-like creature with the power to paralyze life itself. The moment he appeared, the air turned heavy. Even giants trembled. In mythology, the spider has always symbolized manipulation, the web that controls others' fates. And what's better representation of the world's government than a being who weaves webs of control across the entire planet? Saturn's form isn't random. It's the physical manifestation of his dominion over the world's order. Then there's St. Marcus Mars, whose beastly transformation resembles a gigantic winged creature, possibly inspired by the myth of Griffin or Garuda, a symbol of divine authority and judgment from the heaven. If Saturn represents the web of control, Mars represents the righteous eye that punishes those who defy it. Next is Saint Ethan Baron, the elder who wielded a massive sword even before his transformation. When he takes on his full form, we see an ox demon, massive and unstoppable. It's not just a monster, it's a warning that the government's justice consumes everything in its path. Then we have St. Topman Warkori, the boar-like deity, whose raw strength embodies primal destruction. In many mythologies, the boar represents unrestrained wrath, divine retribution unleashed. Warkori's role could symbolize the destructive will of the celestial dragons, the untouchable gods who trample anything beneath them. And then there's Saint Shepherd Jupiter, the elder whose monstrous form burrows beneath the surface like a sandworm, an ancient predator that devours from below. In mythology, sandworms are forces of nature, gods of hunger and rebirth, and that's exactly what Jupiter symbolizes. the quiet, grinding machinery of the world government, the kind of control that doesn't need to be seen to be absolute. Together, the five elders aren't random monsters. They're a divine hierarchy of domination. The web, the eye, the sword, the fury, and the hunger beneath it all. Five forms, one purpose, to consume the world in the name of order. But the real question is, where did these powers come from? Are they truly devil fruits or something far older? Because if these beings existed before the Void Century, before even Joy Boy, then what we're seeing isn't science or sorcery. It's the return of gods who once ruled the earth. Let's connect the dots. We know from Vegapunt's research the devil fruits are born from human desire. Every ability represents a dream: to fly, to control fire, to become something beyond human. But what if some desires didn't come from humans, but from gods themselves? The five elders' forms are tied to the ancient myths that predate the current world order, myths of divine beasts that ruled the seas, skies, and underworld. It's possible that these god fruits aren't just powerful zones, they're fragments of the original deities that once governed the world before the Void Century. And who would the world government want to eliminate more than anyone else? Those who remember those gods. Think about it. The ancient kingdom that the world government destroyed 800 years ago, the one that dared to oppose them, may have worshipped these gods as allies, not enemies. But when those gods fell, their power was sealed in the fruits, and the five elders inherited them to become living vessels of divine control. That's why the celestial dragons see themselves as gods. It's not just arrogance, it's legacy. The truth about the five elders' powers might go far beyond anything the world has seen before. Because what if the god fruits weren't discovered but sealed away? Think about what we know. Every devil fruit grants a human the power of something unnatural, something that defies the natural order of the sea. And yet, every fruit demands a price. The sea rejects them. The gods of the ocean, the very lifeblood of the world, curse those who consume them. But what if the curse isn't punishment? What if it's revenge? Long before the Void Century, there may have existed a civilization that tried to extend beyond humanity, a people who harnessed the power of divine beings themselves, not through prayer or faith, but through technology, through experimentation, through the creation of the first fruits. In this theory, the devil fruits are not mere miracles of nature, they're artificial vessels designed to contain the essence of gods. And the five elders are living proof of what happens when that power is perfected, when the divine and human become one. These so-called secret god fruits could have been the original prototypes, fruits that held not the will of mythical creatures, but actual deities erased from the world's memories. Gods that once ruled the land, sea, and sky, dethroned during the ancient war that gave birth to the world government. And here's the most chilling part. The elders' immortality, their ageless faces, their divine presence, may not come from the atop fruit or science. It might be the natural result of divine fusion, an unholy bond between mortal flesh and immortal will. That would explain why they don't age, why they can appear anywhere instantly, why even the strongest creatures, from the admirals to the seraphim, bow to their command, because their authority isn't just political, it's spiritual law, the lingering echo of gods that once ruled the world before it was divided by the red line. And if that's true, then it reframes everything we know about Luffy and the sun god Nika, because Luffy's fruit, the Hito Hito no Mi model, Nika isn't just a weapon of freedom. It's the one power capable of rivaling the Elder's divine order, the sun against the void. It's the balance the world has been missing since the ancient war, a power of joy and liberation, destined to clash against the power of fear and control. And that's the heart of this theory. The final war isn't just pirates versus the government. It's the return of the gods, a rematch between the deities who once shaped the world. The five elders are not simply men who rule. They're divine relics clinging to a forgotten age. And the awakening of the sun god marks the beginning of their end. If the five elders truly wield divine power, then the final saga isn't just the end of an era. It's the rebirth of a myth. Because what we're witnessing now isn't politics or rebellion or even revolution. It's a war between gods, fought through the descendants of men. On one side, the void, the five elders and Emu, embodying order, silence, and eternal control. Their god fruits draw from the old pantheon, being one who ruled through fear, manipulation, and sacrifice. They are the gods who changed the world, who raised the red line as a wall and declared themselves divine to erase all others. On the other side stands Nika, the sun god, the power of joy, freedom, and defiance. And through Luffy, that light has returned to the world. Every time he laughs in the face of death, every time he refuses to kneel, that laughter becomes rebellion, the sound the world government fears most. And somewhere between them, the world trembles. Because for the first time in 800 years, the balance of divine power has been broken. The ancient weapons, Uranus, Pluton, and Poseidon, may not just be tools of destruction. They could be the counterbalances to the elders' powers, remnants of the first war between gods and men, weapons meant not to conquer, but to restore what was stolen, the sea's freedom. And that's the terrifying beauty of this moment. The truth isn't that the five elders aren't gods. The truth is that humanity has been living under their shadow for nearly a millennium and never even realized it. Every island, every kingdom, every person who fears the name world government has unknowingly been bowing to these divine imposters. And now, with Luffy's awakening, that illusion is cracking. Egghead wasn't just a battle, it was a declaration. For the first time, a god of freedom has stood against the gods of control. And when that light spreads to the world, to the revolutionaries, the Yonko, and the lost kingdoms of the sea, the world government's age of divinity will end in fire. Because the war to come isn't about treasure. It's about who gets to decide what godhood really means. And when the final dawn rises, one truth will remain. The five elders' power was never about faith. It was about fear. But Luffy's power, it's the first divine act born from joy. At its core, One Piece has never just been a story about pirates. It's been a story about freedom and what it costs to achieve it. The five elders represent the oldest kind of tyranny, the belief that power and divinity are the same thing. They sit above the world, convinced that control is peace and that humanity can't survive without its chains. But what they've forgotten is that the real gods don't need obedience, they inspire hope. That's why the return of Nika the sun god matters. He doesn't demand worship, he doesn't enforce order, he laughs, dances, and sets others free. And that difference between divinity through fear and divinity through joy is what will decide the fate of the world. Because when you strip away the myths, the titles, the ancient names, and the forbidden fruits, you're left with one timeless truth. Power means nothing if it isn't shared. The five elders built a world where gods ruled over men, but Luffy is building a world where men become gods, not through domination, but through will, laughter, and dreams. And maybe that's what the One Piece really is. Not a weapon, not gold, but the moment when the world finally remembers that it never needed gods at all. Do you think the five elders' powers are truly divine, or are they just men clinging to the last remnants of a lost era? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe the real world of gods has already begun, hit subscribe and join us again here on the Grand Line Report.